Hello, I'm Jack Riggin. This is Electric Vehicle Television. Here with my compadre and consigliere, Brian Noto.
Hey, here we is.
Here we is again.
And we had a heck of a storm last night, but it's all sunny today. Hopefully it doesn't make me queasy.
We almost didn't have a show this week.
We're kind of scrounging around.
There's nothing much going on. Maybe it'll be a short one.
Okay. Yeah, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot going on.
Yeah, there's not a lot of news, and we're not working very hard, and that doesn't make for much of a show.
We're working pretty hard.
Are we?
Yeah, it's just some of it, and some of the stuff going on with the thing is kind of batteries and battery boxes and hooking stuff up, and you really can't see much. It's looking into a hole.
I'm just going down through them, bleeding off batteries.
Yeah, it's not a whole heck of a lot to show. Let's see, but who was out here this week? Let's see, what do we got? All kinds of stuff.
What do you want to start with? Let's talk about electric cars.
Okay, talk about electric cars?
Yeah, and electric car business.
Okay, so let's talk about, there's some numbers that we can talk about.
All right, numbers.
We like numbers, and it's talking about Tesla, and is Tesla actually outselling the competition, Audi and BMW, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz. So they've put the Tesla Model S in the class with the Mercedes S-Class and the BMW 7 Series,
All right.
which is called the large luxury segment of the market. Mm-hmm. So at least for the, let's see, I think this was recently, because Tesla's saying that in the first quarter that they would have delivered 4,750 Model S cars. So it's January 1st to March 31st. Mm-hmm. And Audi 1,462, BMW 7 Series 2338, Lexus LS 2860, and the Mercedes S-Class 3,077. So if you put them in that class, it looks like they did.
Sort of depends on what class, but yeah.
And then there's one that they don't talk about really, which is the Cadillac, the new XTS. Yeah, that would be in that class. And I think they sell a lot of those. I bet Cadillac must sell a lot of them.
I like Cadillac.
Yeah, we got an Escalade and an XTS, a nice car. Yeah.
Is that going to be like the ELR?
I think it would be what, the same body, I think, as the ELR.
My golly. I've still said that's what General Motors ought to do, is go at the high end. This is what Tesla's doing right. Yeah, it's too expensive for me, but not too expensive for everybody, apparently. They're moving a few of them.
Yeah, no, they are.
And they're outclassing Audi and BMW in the 7 Series. Now, I don't know about that classification. I might put it in the 5. What's the 5 Series
The
run?
5 Series,
What's price start?
I mean, I think that you
series?
can get in a 5 probably for 60 maybe and go up from there, 50 something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I think in the U.S.
I thought they got to be 80 pretty quick.
Oh yeah, they do, especially in the U.S. because they're going to come with leather and automatics and all the creature comforts. Absolutely.
Yeah. But a 7 Series 2338, yeah, they sold more than they did. Lexus LS, sure. Mercedes S-Class, of course, they just had a video out about the Mercedes SL Electric.
Electric, yeah.
And that's like a $543,000
Oh man,
car. They won't sell a lot of
I don't think they're going to.
But it was a pretty cool car.
Yeah, exactly. So don't leave it in the parking lot at the movies, huh? Get door dinged.
So yeah, the Tesla guys are, it just keeps on keeping on. The stock took a big jump this week.
That's what you were saying.
It was up
yeah.
around 46 and 47 again, after dipping down to about 41. And I kept thinking there was about to be an announcement because they'd said they were going to make one. Well, they kind of did, but he didn't play it up real big this time.
Right.
Because he took such a bath on the lease thing. And all it was they were going to set aside 80 Tesla Model S's as loaners for service. They're going to work on their service.
Okay, okay.
And Elon admits he's not really in touch with service, and they need to have, world-class service too. So
I think so, yeah.
They're going to set aside 80 of the cars so that, they can if you go in to get if your Tesla needs work, actually they bring you the car,
Yeah,
take away
that's-
yours.
that's what they were
and,
saying.
That's kind of the way to do it. Service, Elon, in this case, don't watch those Ducats too closely. It gets to be a gig. Every time a Model S breaks down, you've got an opportunity to go give them egregious over-the-top service. They bring them a car, take their car away, wash it, fill it up with gasoline
Oh yeah, there you go, or electricity.
or electricity, and bring it back. And that causes more word of mouth than almost anything.
I think so, and from what I understand, they're going to do all the highest trim level Model S's, so that no matter what level you are, you'll never get a car under your trim level. So I think it'd be a nice touch.
The downside is he's charging like $600 a year for service that amounts to basically software upgrades.
Software stuff, yeah.
And so you need to dump that over the head of the guys that do have real problems with the car, and
Yeah, right.
get their mind off the problems and onto what remarkable service Tesla provides. But that's just my advice. I'm still looking for a major supercharger announcement.
You still waiting?
I still want to do it my way. You can't have some weenie announcement. But so what else?
Have
is
a big
going
one.
on?
Well, let's see. I guess we're talking about Tesla a little bit. They did have, not bad news, but they had some news. Last week we talked about who used to be their director of communications. I guess they kind of summarily dismissed a few employees back in 2007, including David Vespremi, who we talked about last week, took delivery of that Torque Roadster.
When they got rid of Martin Eberhart, they axed about 30 or 40 people at the same time. It was a general cleaning.
I think it is cleaned house, and I guess he took a libel and slander suit to court, and he wasn't really looking for anything but an apology. And what they found was that he and a number of other people at that time didn't get their stock options. So I guess that he got an award of 10,000 shares. I guess it's $207,000 worth of stock options, and there may be some more people that are entitled to those as well. So I guess the apology would have been cheaper.
It would have been, Brian, but we're going the wrong direction.
Yeah,
They were
right, with
spending
Martin
too much
Eberhart.
on their cars. They were delivering them late. Elon went in and axed a bunch of people and straightened it up and brought it back.
And fixed it, I guess you're right, yeah.
For some reason, we have determined as a society that that's the purview of the federal government.
Oh yeah, they're just busy.
And how female or male they are, and the whole thing is really subject to review, and all these dismissals, and it goes on and on and on. And if they get their way, you'll be like the teachers union in Washington, D.C. or something, and unable to functionally operate. Now, people, you have to, this socialist instinct with these people on TV, it's very disturbing because it can kill all of this. If you make it too hard, somebody even with $1 billion like Elon Musk can't start a company.
Yeah, how would you do it? Yeah, it's
The
do
new
something else.
companies that are innovative and start with two guys in a garage is where the stuff comes from. If you cut it off there, it doesn't happen, and you don't have any jobs. There's a serious problem going on right now, and it may be systemic, and it's quite frightening. We have 14 million people on disability now.
Yes, I did read and hear about that. Yes.
We had a 3-point-something million on disability when Obama took office. They are hiding from you how bad this economy is.
I guess they're not showing up on the unemployment numbers.
Well, that's what they've done.
Yeah.
They move them from unemployment to disability. There is a company that will help you get on disability if you don't have a job. They'll call and make a doctor's appointment for you. They'll call and remind you to go to the doctor.
My back's starting to hurt.
They will call the doctor and get the stuff. They will assemble it with your application for disability and hand deliver it to the Social Security Administration for you.
Oh, geez.
And if there's any question, they'll go to the hearing. The state of Missouri, this is stuff that they're not telling you on TV. The state of Missouri pays $2,300 a head to this company for everyone they get off the unemployment rolls, which Missouri has to help pay for,
Sure. Yeah.
onto the Social Security Administration disability rolls, which Social Security pays
So,
for.
yeah, the feds pay for it, yeah.
And so you have states paying private companies by the head for how many they can move off of unemployment onto disability.
Man.
Can you imagine? Let me put up some good news.
Cool.
This is a good news for cars and gasoline, but the underlying reasons for it are probably not so good. This is from the Energy Information Administration, and it is U.S. total gasoline retail sales by refiners in thousands of gallons per day.
Okay.
Our peak point was probably in 1999 at maybe, I'm going to call it 67,500,000 gallons per day.
Right.
That was, the jagged line is retail sales. The smooth line is sales by refiners. Sort of on the 12-month average. The red line's the actual sales. Our next peak close to that would have been 2004-ish. And our gasoline sales started down then. If you recall, we got up into the $4 gasoline stuff.
Right.
Pointed out on this chart is the Lehman failure. That was, right about the time they announced the $800 billion bailout.
The bailout, yeah.
The second arrow is the first debt ceiling crisis a year ago when that U.S. downgrade. And currently we're at maybe 27,500,000.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, yeah.
Now this is total gasoline retail sales by refiners. It's in the U.S. Worldwide, we're using more gasoline. The United States is using less. And less, like from 67 million gallons per day, to 27 million gallons a day. This is fantastic news for us. And it explains why the gasoline prices are as low as they are. Of course, China and India and elsewhere, the rate of consumption is going up. But ours personally in the United States, on our 205 million drivers, is going down. Now, gasoline's $3.75 right now. Yes, this isn't an indication of very much. Our fleet average has gone up as far as mileage.
Yeah, right.
To what did you announce?
What was it,
24?
24.1 or something, yeah.
That's way up from 21.3. That's just on the new cars sold.
Right, just on new cars.
And so that has an impact. But I'm seeing here an economic malaise with hundreds of millions of people basically avoiding a lot of discretionary driving.
Yeah, that's what this looks like.
Simply because they can't fund it.
Yeah, it's high. The gas price is high enough, yeah.
When I take the 7.7% unemployment we have right now, 7.5 million people looking for work, and they had 14 million people who are not looking for work.
Right.
Because they're on disability. That's 21 million people out of our workforce. I think we've got an underlying problem with our economy that is has been patched over and glazed over with these essentially hugely expensive accounting tricks. They're not unemployed, they're disabled.
Right, right.
And disabilities, no, I don't, that's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You get about $13,000 a year. You get Medicare.
Sure.
But you've kind of
that's
given
it.
up.
You're stuck, yeah, kind of.
You
yeah.
would, if you could get a job, you would not do this.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I don't think this is welfare queens at play. This is discouraged people. Now, a lot of it, we've kind of had the collapse of distribution networks and the advances in technology.
Sure, all the productivity gains, yeah.
Everybody thinks all our manufacturing went to China. That's not really true. We still manufacture twice as much goods as China does.
Wow.
Watch how it's made.
Oh, yeah, the
or
show,
how
yeah.
did they do that
Right,
on Discovery
right,
Channel? You can watch all sorts of things being made. If you'll notice, there's not very many people in the room.
No, there aren't.
It's a lot of machines.
And later we'll talk about a story about that, yeah.
And the reason that's important is, and I'm not a Luddite, I led the charge on technology and in productivity improvements. That's what we're all about. We're making a TV show here at a daily shooting cost of $300 in a world where it's $15,000
Right.
for indie guys who have nothing.
Right, yeah, exactly, on a shoestring.
I live the life of how to do nothing, do something with nothing, and make productivity a hyper activity to wipe out people and jobs and so forth. But as that is scaled up, it's supposed to absorb those people on the back. The problem is, if you have somebody in their 50s or 40s who have spent their life working in the mill or the cannery or whatever,
Right.
when they get displaced, there's no place for them to go. And they can look for a job, but all the guys at the same mill at the same time were laid off.
In the same town.
In the same town. Now they're trapped in their house. They can't dump the house because everybody's in this boat.
Right.
And it's so it can be very discouraging. They've done nothing wrong. They've worked hard all their life and showed up and obeyed the law and so on and so forth. And suddenly they're out. So I don't put going on disability as a great gravy train in this case.
No.
Don't get carried away with the Republican view of that. It's kind of a tragedy. When you combine it with something like this, it's alarming the number of people we have idled and the lack of economic activity in this country. But I found this Energy Information Administration, the EIA.gov, this graph is totally fascinating because we have a huge decline in the use of gasoline.
Yeah, right, and the consumption of fuels, yeah.
And
gasoline.
that's a good thing, except for what it implies about the underlying economy. What else do you have?
Well, it was funny because the GM, I guess, unveiled its White Marsh, where they're building the motors for the Spark. And one of the things was, I guess they have maybe 20 or 27 employees and about the same number of robots. Making, which back in the day,
Right.
that would have been interesting. But I
Would
guess
have been
they
a huge one.
and yeah, they're saying that in Baltimore, I guess, is where they just opened this plant.
This is the how decrepit the PR machine has got to be. What they announced was that they're the only U.S. automobile manufacturer actually building their own motors.
Yeah, right.
Well, this has a couple of problems. One, Nissan, I guess, is not a U.S. automotive manufacturer, but they're building their motors, and they're building them in Smyrna,
I think they're in Tennessee. Yeah, right by Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, right down there next to their plant.
Yeah.
So they are building the motors. They're building them in the United States. They're building the cars in the United States. Are they a U.S. automaker? I don't know.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
Second,
Kind of.
GM being a U.S. automaker, yes, they are making the motors in Baltimore.
Baltimore. Yeah.
They're making the Spark car in Korea. So there's a lot of mixing of body fluids going on here internationally that gets very. But the ones that have really got their nose out of joint is Tesla, because they have designed and build their own motor in plant, and they are in the U.S. and they build their cars in the U.S.
Right here, yeah.
How would they not be a U.S. car maker? And so how could General Motors be the only U.S. car maker that makes their own motors when Tesla made their own motors before GM did?
It's PR, I guess, huh?
It just goes
on and on. Craziness, huh? Absolute craziness. Let's see, what else do we have here? We do have a little video, I suppose, if we want. Last week we didn't get to it. I had brought so much news that, and this isn't really timely news. It happened in 1947. So
1947?
Yeah, 1947. So I suppose I'm a little late on the news, but it's interesting that it's out there. Apparently, Nissan made an electric vehicle right after World War II because we really didn't want them getting a whole lot of fuel. They'd just been defeated, and sometimes we like to punish our adversaries for a little while. And so they built Nissan an electric vehicle called the Tama. And it got, they're saying 60 miles of range, 22 miles max. Maybe we can just take a look at it here.
All right.
Okay.
Do we have that video?
We do. We've got a video of them going through it in Japanese, or maybe a driving video. See what we come up with.
All right.
Okay.
多摩電気自動車、1947年製の、車です。で、この車が1947年、昭和22年になぜ作られたか、そこが非常に、疑問だと思います。で、当時、日本は戦争に負けて、進駐軍に全部工業もガソリンも、抑えられてしまいました。でも当時の技術者たち、特に飛行機の技術者たちは、日本の物流ですとか、それから移動手段として何か車を作んなきゃいけない、それで、この車は、日産自動車、もう一つはプリンス自動車、これの前身の、立川飛行機、彼らの技術者が作った、多摩電気自動車という車です。工業地帯は戦争で全部焼け野原、工業はできない。それから家庭にも裸電球とラジオぐらいしかない。でも、発電所は水力発電だから山の中にあってどんどん電気はできる。じゃあその余った電気を使って車を動かそうじゃないかという発想でこの車は作られました。飛行機の技術者がこれは作ったんだぞという、痕跡が各個に残ってます。例えばこのボンネットのこの形状、この真ん中がヒンジになってます。両方がこう開くタイプになってます。ところがこの車は名前のごとくアリゲータータイプといって、ワニが口を開いたようなこういう形になります。で、当時こんな車は世の中にはないんです。非常に評判が悪くてかっこ悪いと言われました。でも考えてみてください。今の車のボンネットって全部こうやって開くじゃないですか。当時この車をやったのはものすごく先見の明を持ってるデザイナー、その人がこういうことを考えた。なぜかっていうと、この方が整備がしやすい。1回でプレスができないんで、手で叩いてそれをいいとこだけ切って全部つなぎ合わせて作ってます。それでこういう形状を出しています。で、もう一つはフロントウィンドウ、当時は、全部この真っ平らなウィンドウですね。今は R のついたウィンドウで、だから、こういうワイパーですとか、ミラーですとか、そういう保安基準もろくにないもんですから、真っ平らなものを使ってやってます。この、装備はどの車も当時の車は同じものを使っています。だから共通性があります。もしこの時代の車を今直すんであれば、どの部品を持ってきても合うということです。で、もう一つ特徴的なのは、今はウインカーといって点滅をします。当時は、方向指示器、ターンシグナルになります。なんでこういう通称アポロと言います。 でこのアポロというのは、カンパニーネームです。アポロ社というのが、輸入をしてライセンス生産をして日本で作ってた、通称アポロと言います。でこれは、当時この大体戦中戦後ぐらいの時は当たり前の装備で、大型バスにも使われてましたし、それからアメリカなんかでも、有名なのはジープ。この車は当時と全く同じ装備にしようということで、同じものを使おうということでいろいろ苦労して、修理をしています。それがまずこの一つのアポロ、ワイパー、それからこのヘッドライトです。このヘッドライトも、実は今と違ってレンズカットが違います。この、レンズも、我々が調べたところによると日本でも10枚と残ってないレンズです。非常に貴重なレンズです。多分オークションとかで出したら何十万という値段がつくものです。古い車をご存知の方は、ヘッドライトはこんな付け方してないんですね。ここに丸いライトがポコンとついてる格好をしてるんです。それをわざわざこういう形にしてる。これは飛行機の羽、エンジンのついてるところをイメージすると分かると思います。それからもう一つ、このバンパーについてるオーバーライダー、こちら側とこちら側と作って、ここで裏側で溶接でつなげてます。これを一枚板で型を作ったと言っても、これ叩いて作ってるんですね。火を入れないで。タイヤはですね、これ意外なんですけども、皆さんは、よく聞かれるの、タイヤはよくありましたねと。ここが文化の違いです。イギリスに行きますとタイヤ今でも売ってます。いろんな車があるんで、ほとんどのタイヤがイギリスで手に入ります。ですから、そういうのを直したいという人はタイヤ必要だったらまずイギリスを探してくださいということです。このタイヤも同じサイズのもの、それからメーカーによっては、イギリスで、タイヤを新しく作ってくれるメーカーもあるんで、それは可能になります。基本的には、この車は、直流モーターを使っています。バッテリーを、直接、抵抗器で、可変して、それで、それがアクセルになっています。それでスピードをコントロールしています。ですから本当に単純な、車です。今のリーフとは違って余った電気は全て熱に変えて捨ててしまっています。ですからここにラジエーターみたいな、熱変換器がいると。もともと自動車っていうのは馬車ですから、まず木で作ってあります。でこの車も木です。その上に、鉄板をかぶせてあるだけのものです。当時の車は当たり前のように、そういう、構造を、とっています。これもご多分に漏れず同じです。大体以上です。よろしいでしょうか。
So that's the Tama, and that's an electric vehicle from Nissan back in the day. I suppose was that the predecessor of the
Part of
Leaf?
introducing the electric vehicle is, of course, also being able to rewrite history where you invented it.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Huh?
Porsche jumped out very early with actually a fascinating commercial. I'll see if I can dig it up.
That's right. We had it
Run
on the show. Yeah.
Of Porsche in 1904 with their electric car,
Yeah,
and
kind of
then
buggy.
later even a hybrid, and in wheel motors, by the way.
Yes, that's right.
Let me see if I can dig out that Porsche commercial.
All
We'll show
right.
that. And so no doubt,
yeah.
GM will come up with somebody that had a 1906 thing that they eventually bought the company and,
Yeah.
did something.
We were first.
So everyone will have some claim to being the inventor of the electric car.
I think so.
Meanwhile, they're kind of fighting the whole concept. And part of this is mixed up with these California Air Resource Board
Right. Yeah.
CAFE standards.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's going on with that today?
Well, and this will bring us into a couple of stories, but a lot happened at the SAE conference, I guess, this week. And Mary Nichols, the chairman of the California Air Resources Board, kind of spanked the automobile manufacturers for trying to get the federal government to set aside the ZEV standards for the zero emissions vehicles for California. But, she did say something interesting. She said, talk about shooting yourselves in the foot, or maybe I could say tripping over your own halo, is what she said. And they're, trying to get reach 15% of California of zero emission vehicles by 2015, new car sales. That's a lot. That's aggressive.
There is so much going on there that's both wrong and right at the same time. I can't sort it out for you. I can tell you that the California Air Resources Board predates the EPA.
Yes.
They started the California Air Resources Board in the 60s in response to basically the acid humidity in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was
smog.
Smog, yeah.
Photocatalytic smog. And so the CARB actually predates the EPA. And here the automakers are applying to the EPA to squash the CARB. The California Air Resources Board is requiring a certain percentage of an automaker's sales to be zero emissions. Now, that's not necessarily electric, but that's the one that qualifies the easiest.
Right now, yeah.
Hydrogen would, a fuel cell car would probably do that. A compressed natural gas would not.
Compressed air would.
Compressed air would.
Compressed air would.
If it was, So they're requiring their sales. Now, California sells 1.5 million new cars a year. That's the largest market in the U.S. Yeah. And so the automakers naturally, if California just for some reason tells them they can't sell cars there, I guess that would be a bad thing.
That would be a big deal, yeah. Bad day.
Who Killed the Electric Car, the documentary. We had all this in the 90s, and they, in fact, mandated the same thing.
Right.
And that's where the Toyota RAV4, the electric Ford Ranger, the Ford Think, GM's EV1, all came from that.
Right.
And they had to sell a certain number of them, or lease a certain number of them. They could get credit for it either way.
Yes.
To get this mix so they would be able to sell cars in California. They actually found a way to overturn that.
They did, yeah.
And then that's when the EV1 got shredded.
Right.
The RAV4 went off the market, the Chevy S10, the
Ranger, yeah.
And all those. Now, after the debacle with the EV1, most of them did sell them the cars.
Right.
And so there's still a few old RAV4s and Chevy S10s and Rangers
flopping around.
Flopping around. There isn't really any EV1s.
No.
A couple of museums.
Yeah, Peterson Museum, I think, has one.
I think Otmar said he had an EV1 motor.
Really?
He and some college kid were going to put in something. But so that led to the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car.
Right.
Well, we're kind of at the same place.
Yes.
But let me give you the other side of the story, and I kind of agree with this guy, Bob Lutz. And one of the reasons I agree with him is he's taken up my idea from several years ago, and that was to introduce a gasoline tax, but not implement it. And by that, let's declare a $5 tax on gasoline and let's not implement it until January of the following year. And then we implement 25 cents of it.
Right, okay, yeah. That's
And
what you're
then we
talking about.
do that every January, it goes up 25 cents. Now, you know it's going to $5, so start planning now.
Stocking up.
Right. But the actual effect in the first 3 years would be to wash out the speculators out of the oil market. And I would bet you $100 you'd wind up with cheaper gasoline for 3 years with the tax than you have now.
If you got that, yeah.
Because everybody knows it's going to $5.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And every year it goes up a quarter. Well, he's saying that, and he spoke at SAE.
Yeah, there's a lot
Congress,
going on at the conference.
as if he was emperor for the day, which the organizers had kind of egged him on. This was not a grandiose vision of his, particularly, but he said if he could do anything, he would tax the gasoline. And the whole concept of CARB and the federal government and the CAFE standards, which are now a federal requirement, 54.5 miles per gallon by such and such. He said that's like taking a country full of obese people and passing laws that the clothing manufacturers had to make all the clothes sizes smaller so that they would lose weight.
So they'd lose weight, oh jeez.
And it's a great analogy. He says the way you would get them to lose weight is make it expensive or painful for them to get high caloric, fatty
High
foods,
calorie foods, yeah.
where they might eat a little bit less, which is an analog to taxing the gasoline. But the politicians are fearful of you and are absolutely certain that any talk of a gasoline tax would be political death.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, that's
Now,
exactly what they're afraid
There's
of.
a lot of democracies in Europe where they have this, and apparently it wasn't political death, but it's viewed that here in the States this would be political death to have a gasoline tax. So we're going to have the clothing manufacturers make all the sizes, two sizes smaller.
So we'll all get into small cars.
So that when you go get clothes to get into them, you'll have to lose weight. And that's analogous.
That was pretty
to
good.
And I have to follow the man's analogy. It's fairly strictly logical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're going to force the automakers to make a bunch of cars people don't want to buy.
Right, and they still can buy big cars.
The Cadillac XTR,
The XL, yeah, XTS, yeah, and XLR, yeah, the big, yeah.
that was the big one in that class.
That's right. That's the big one in that class.
The big
That's right.
seller, over 7,000 against 2,800 BMWs.
Right, right. Yep, that's the big one.
1,400 Audis and 4,750 Teslas.
That's right. Yep.
And so, you have to make people want something else, and that would be through a rising price of gasoline. And we do want to continue using less. It would be okay for us to produce oil and natural gas and sell it to other people. We don't have to burn it here.
No, we don't know. There's a big market out there, for
Right.
natural gas and oil. That's right.
Yeah, it's okay not to burn it here.
Yeah. Yeah, we can
So
burn it to make electricity. It was kind of interesting. Again, this is the same thing at the SAE Congress. Sergio Marchionne of Chrysler and Fiat, the CEO, said that they are going to lose $10,000 on every of the electric Fiat 500s that they
I think they just
sell.
priced them. I think they're about 34.5, something like that.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, 30. Yeah, I think they're 33 and 34. Yeah, and then I guess they always calculate that $7,500 credit, so that it brings it down. That's.
Yeah, but what's the real price?
I think the real price is 30-some thousand dollars, I believe. Yeah.
And they're losing $10,000 a car.
Yeah.
Why would they make those? They're compliance cars. This is what I've been referring to as a compliance car that will get them in California.
Get them in California.
If they could sell enough of them at that price, then they can sell the rest of their line without penalty.
Right, and they can go ahead and sell their high profit in SUVs and ones that burn more fuel. Absolutely.
you know, I don't really have a problem with larger luxury cars subsidizing smaller, more efficient cars. But as Bob said, it's kind of like forcing the clothes manufacturers to make smaller
Make
clothes
smaller
so that people will lose weight. I like that analogy.
It is.
I think
It's pretty
brilliant.
good. He's pretty good.
Cute car, the Fiat, but
Uh-huh.
you know, if it costs $45,000, that's not a good value proposition. They're going to let you have it for 34. You know, it's kind of a smart size car, but I think they're cute. But in any event, whatever number of them they make, they will not sell me one because they need it in
need it,
California.
right.
Missouri doesn't have CAFE standards. So if I call a dealer in California from Missouri and want to buy the car, they're not going to sell it to me.
Really? Wow.
No, they're only
They need them in California.
they
Yeah.
need the credit in California.
Wow.
And so they're not going to spend $10,000 subsidize a car for somebody in Missouri. You got to be in California to get this compliance car. It's not really an electric car. It's a California. And those kind of distortions tend to produce unforeseen consequences.
Unintended consequence.
Unintended consequences, which is a Democratic National Party code word for "we screwed up again. Why didn't you Republicans stop us?"
We forgot about that part.
Dang. Now we got to undo it.
Forgot about that.
There are two main things. Their best mode is when they try to do something and the Republicans stop them, and they can point to the Republicans as the evil ones who stopped it. Their less comfortable position is when they win. Then they got to figure out how to
Now
undo
what-
it and
now
explain
what?
it later. That it was really because they didn't get as much of it as they wanted because of the Republicans.
Darn. Another car company that lost money on each vehicle was kind of funny. A group called Privco, and I guess what they look at is private companies and try to understand what their balance sheets are and how they're spending money and things like that. But they did a calculation for Fisker that each one of their $100,000 electric cars, actually they spent $660,000 on them.
Wow.
When you look at the federal and private money that was put into the company, they spent $600,000, depending on how you do the
Well,
calculation.
per delivered car,
Per
it was
car.
$660,000 a car.
Yeah, $660,000 a
Wow.
car. Talk about a loss,
Is
huh?
that a bargain? You pick up a $660,000 car for $103,000. They're going in the low 70s now.
Oh, they are?
On eBay,
Okay, I haven't seen them. Okay, I haven't
and
looked.
they're dropping weekly.
Really? Yeah, 'cause what are you going to do with them?
What are you going to do with it? You're not
Yeah.
going to be able to get any parts or support or
We'll donate it to a museum now.
yeah, right.
Like, if you need the write-off.
And we haven't even had the bankruptcy's not been officially announced, and I haven't heard about a liquidation auction yet.
It sounded like last week we were talking about that they kept enough people to run the
Stickers on
forklift.
things.
Yeah, and drive a forklift out to it.
Put lot numbers on the stuff and run the forklift.
That's right. Yeah, anybody that can run a forklift can stay for a while.
Hmm.
Oh, geez. And then I had a little special presentation for you here. And this is one of 7 special edition Time 100 that they do every year. This is 2013, excuse me, covers of Elon Musk.
Ah!
You're
My dinner!
So there's Elon. I guess he's going to be on the cover, and 6 other people on other covers. But this is
well,
the
there
one to
you
look
go.
for.
Oh,
So there
yeah.
you go, Jack. Here's
Cool.
something special for you.
My dinner!
And he's got that look.
I'll hang him on the wall then.
That's right. There we go. That's our special presentation.
What else do we have to chat about?
Just now we can just kind of talk. I think we ran through the news. That's
Not
the
entirely.
news.
There
Okay.
was a big brouhaha announced with great fanfare that they had discovered a memory effect on the lithium iron phosphate
That's right. I got it in
cells.
here. Yes.
I took a look at this. I've gotten about 30 email inquiries.
I
from
figured you
viewers.
would. Yeah.
I think this is someone who's discovered a very small thing and
They made a
is
very
making much
very
of it.
big deal, much
Made
ado
a
about
very
nothing.
big deal of it. It's a trivial notch in a charge curve after a partial charge and discharge.
Okay.
And in no way is it like the nickel cadmium cells
Right.
loss of capacity on a memory effect. We haven't detected anything like that. And this is quite possibly so. And again, one of those things that just doesn't matter to an impossible level. I wouldn't worry about it at all. We'll keep an eye on it.
Okay.
And perhaps there'll be further papers and clarification. This looks like much ado about not very much
Okay.
to me. And so that's kind of what's going on there. I did get a delivery of a CHAdeMO
Yeah.
inlet
Nice.
to
Yeah.
put in a car from a company that distributes for Yazaki. These things are like about $800 a piece.
Oh, well, remember we got the first J1772. We paid.
We paid like $1,300
Yeah,
for the
set.
pair.
Yep, we did.
And later they were available from China for $29
Yeah, that's right.
with free
3 easy
Frosted
payments.
Flakes
Yeah,
that were just like Frosted Flakes. A 4-AUG cable. CHAdeMO is capable of 125 amps and 400 volts.
Right.
50 kilowatts is really about the top. I ranted and raved about this before. Neither the SAE standard proposed nor CHAdeMO can really do what we want it to do.
That's right.
I'm kind of on pins and needles because the Pulsar device, which is really a charger, Ryan keeps trying to make it into a controller. I hope that's not the reason for the delay from his November 15th delivery date to us of 10 of them to now it's looking like I might get one by May 13th.
Okay.
But eventually I want to spin all this together. CHAdeMO is appealing to me because the data protocol is CAN bus directly. SAE J1772 Rev B, October 2012,
Right.
is their fast charge thing. It uses the home plug green power plug line protocol, PLC or something.
Okay.
Which, you know, there's a lot of CAN bus chip transceiver chips out there and stuff. We got it working with Arduino. It's certainly working with the Pulsar. This PLC, you have to get a whole nother chipset that's a little more rare and more expensive. It's a more complicated protocol. I'd like to see it die a natural and early death myself. But I'm told, somebody said that Tesla's system probably was more like PLC.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we can get this, can't get the plug part yet, but should within a couple of weeks. And we'll probably go ahead and get these. I want to play around with, you know, making the Pulsar and the mother load battery bank and so forth.
Right.
All kind of play together. And, you know, from the looks of this, maybe I ought to be designing my own connector using heavier Tweco type welding
yeah.
things that would do 300 or 400 amps safely. This is not the panacea that the automotive professionals might imagine. But I still favor the CHAdeMO over the SAE. I like the separate plug, and I like the CAN bus protocol. But anything under 100 kilowatts, if this will not handle 100 kilowatts, it is not the solution, period. And I don't see going over 400 volts being the direction. You got to do current, and that takes some copper. And if you, at 400 volts, you're talking about 250 to 300 amps,
Right.
not 125. That's not going to work. We've designed the Pulsar to do up to, I think, 375 volts and 300 amperes.
That's That's
and
big.
that's right under 100
You're
kilowatts.
right, under 100.
And 100 kilowatts is the starting place. That's what it would take to charge a Tesla Model S in about to 80%, in about 45
Right,
minutes.
right. That's a big battery pack.
And I don't know that the Tesla standard can do that either. But I'd sure like to get their connectors and learn to spoof their protocol, because I think it would be, I think there's still going to be an announcement on the supercharger thing. Anyway, I thought I'd show you our
Yeah, that is cool.
connector, and we've got it and can play with it. But and I have the specification, the revised specification for the CHAdeMO CAN bus. I don't really have it for the SAE PLC home power group green flavor swaving, but that's so that's a couple things that have been
Oh, great.
slamming around out
Great.
there is the ongoing battle over the fast charge. I think fast charge is the enabler. I think we need it. We need
Yeah, I
it between
do too.
cities. I'm not personally going to need it a lot, but we're going to kind of work at it to see if we can get you where you can have it, because I think it unleashes the electric car and lets you drive cross country.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
just our convention. A lot of people like to drive their cars here.
They do. Yeah.
Instead of on a trailer, but we're just not there yet. If we had fast charge stations, but fast charge has to be 100
It's
kilowatt.
got to be 100 kilowatt, yeah.
Our CA100 FI cells, right now, in there in the box, I can charge them at 300 amps.
Right.
It's not a
Right,
problem.
Not a problem, no.
They don't get hot. They love it. I can do 95% charge. It's not a problem. The batteries do this, guys. The cars would do it if they had the connectors.
Right.
The problem is the power source. Where do you find something to plug into that? And
Yeah.
if we had that solved between cities, where you could charge in 30 minutes or so, enough to get the next 100 or 150 miles down the road, it would be a viable thing may not be pleasant, but it would be viable
Sure.
to
You
drive
could do it.
cross country. And that's the only real limitation that I can say. I just don't have a solution to at this point on an electric car. I don't think range and recharge is near the issue that it's touted to be. I charge here in town twice a week.
Yeah, right.
When does it get, how long does it take to recharge? I'm asleep.
Yeah,
I
who
don't
knows?
know.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, I can calculate these things for you,
Yeah.
but
Stand there and watching it,
as
no.
a practical matter, I'm not staying up all night to watch my electric car charge. So that's that we had heard for this week from one of our viewers. He was inquiring about the relative strengths of the AC50 and the AC75 motor, and he does a conversion shop and is doing a fascinating conversion on a Vanagon pickup truck.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes.
And let me show you what he's
Hello,
got.
Jack. Richard Van Wyhe with EV4U Custom Conversions. I thought I'd share a little something with you. We recently had somebody contact us regarding converting a vehicle, and they wanted an AC50. And he was adamant about wanting the AC50, even though his vehicle weighs almost 3,300 pounds. I mentioned to him that that was a little heavy for that setup, and he assured me that he had done his homework and the manufacturer said it was good up to 3,500 pounds. I asked him if he'd driven one, and indeed he hadn't. And I said, well, if you're familiar with the AC50, you'll know that you really don't want it in a car over 3,000 pounds, let alone a vehicle such as what he wants to convert, which when completed will be closer to 4,000 pounds. Well, I was familiar with the AC75 thanks to EVTV, and so I suggested that that be the route that we take. And thanks again to EVTV. I've got one on the way. And welcome back, Brian. It's good to be dealing with you again. So anyway, that's not the reason for the video. I thought I'd show you and share with you what this AC50 is going in. And the reason I thought you might be interested is that it's a fairly rare vehicle in that they were never imported by the manufacturer into the United States. They were produced for the European and Asian markets. So anyway, let's go take a look. Here it is. It's a 1991 Volkswagen double cab transporter. It's a Vanagon chassis, and it has the bed of the 50s and 60s vintage Volkswagen pickups. So it's an interesting combination. It's a 2.1 liter water boxer engine. So it's rear engine, liquid cooled. And we'll take a little walk around, let you see a little more close up. So like I said, it's a rear engine, rear wheel drive. So it's liquid cooled, so it's a radiator in the front. And it has 3 doors. It's a double cab. It has a door on the passenger side, but not on the driver's side. Has this, what they call the treasure chest, pass through. I've got the door open on the other side, we'll take a look. But the bed has the kind of unique distinction of having these fold down sides, which gives you the ability to have a little bit lower loading deck. They have a step on the tailgate. So you're able to step up into the bed nice and easy. So all the sides go down. Here's the treasure chest. So that goes the full width of the vehicle. I imagine you can guess where we're going to put the batteries. Here's the one rear door. The bench seat has been removed. This gentleman has a mobility scooter that's going to go into the rear here. We're designing a scissor ramp that will fold down, allow you to pull in and pull out, and the ramp will go up and be contained within the vehicle. This is actually a pretty clean setup, considering it's over 20 years old. It's been fairly well maintained. So it's going to be a fun conversion. Looking forward to it. Here's the engine bay. There's a shelf back up in there that actually goes all the way around. Has power steering, power brakes, and all of that will be retained. But this will be the home of the AC75 then. So once again, thank you to EVTV for keeping us abreast of the latest and greatest and what's available. We get so busy it's hard to keep up on what's going on sometimes, so we appreciate EVTV and their efforts to keep us all abreast of what's going on in the industry. So that's it for now, Jack. Just thought you might find this interesting, since this is not something you see every day, at least not in this neck of the woods. So, talk to you soon.
That's a cool vehicle.
Richard Van Wyhe.
Yes,
And
yeah.
he has done
yeah.
exactly the right thing when you have somebody wanting you to
Yep.
do something kind of stupid for cash. You kind of need, in this milieu, to have a plan where they succeed.
Yeah, exactly,
And
yeah.
he did exactly the right thing in pressuring this man to upgrade to an AC-75.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Simply by virtue of weight. With enough gearing, I mean, HPEVS claims AC-75 is good for vehicles up to 3,500 pounds. Around here, we say that it's appropriate up to about 2,800. I could see some 3,000-pound vehicles, conceptually. But with enough gearing, you can do anything. I can use AC-50 to run the Burlington Northern Railroad.
That'd be some pretty reduced gears. Yeah.
Acceleration will take a while.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'll be.
But it'll run it.
That's right. We'll be up to 55 next year.
Is it going to wind up being a vehicle that the man would find pleasing to drive?
Exactly. Yes.
I'm not talking about competitive in a drag race. Pleasurably perky.
Yeah, you got to be able to deal with traffic and things. Yeah, get out of your own way sometimes.
When you get up to 4,000 pounds, it's kind of tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That gain 9, you got to go to 11. And the AC-50, you got to go to
75. Yeah.
It's just a function of weight and mass.
Yeah, it really is.
And the ability to throw foot-pounds at it.
Yeah, and just so you can get down the road.
PM Flight Link. No, they're not PM Flight Link. Protean.
Yes, Protean. Yeah, they did an announcement.
Let me put it up here. It's the most gorgeous stuff you've ever seen. Is this not the most beautiful in-wheel
Yeah,
motor
it is.
you've ever seen? 750 foot-pound, 100 horsepower. You can look at this picture. What you need for an electric car: a box of batteries and 2 of these. You got an electric car.
That's right. That's it.
I love it. I loved it last year. I loved it the year before last. I loved it the year before that,
Yeah.
when they were PM Flight Link and did it with a Mini Cooper. That was supposedly an 800-pound,
Yeah.
800 horsepower prototype,
Right.
200 horsepower at each wheel. Now they have improved that and upped it to 100 per wheel
Oh man.
from 200. Is anything coming across, guys? They got $84 million more of other people's money last year, and they had quite a bit of other people's money from before that. Please do not put your DIY build plans on hold for this nonsense.
For some hub motors.
But isn't it pretty?
it's
It's a
all-
lot prettier than the stuff you really use, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's your first clue.
That's right.
When the photos and the 3D animations are prettier
Are that
than
good?
reality,
That's right. Are that good?
it means it's not reality. Do not wait on this. I've been waiting for years. I finally,
Yeah, we tried even. Yeah.
I think I figured out what was wrong with wheel motors by thought experiment.
Yeah.
Which I don't like to
right,
do.
Right, I know, but if you can't get any, how do you know?
I kept, yeah, they're unobtaining them
Yeah,
completely.
yeah.
There's no wheel motor available anywhere on the planet. Yes, I know. Send me all the emails with the links to all of them you see. None of them are available. Don't send me a link. Send me a wheel motor if you
right.
want to make a point.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen enough press
Bicycles
releases.
have wheel motors. Little bitty vehicles have wheel motors. I don't have it for cars. Why? The other part of that that's very interesting,
Yeah.
I cannot find a major automotive manufacturer that has not announced sometime in the last 40 years a wheel motor project.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They all have wheel motor projects. They all have huge power to the wheels. Very simple, very elegant. See them at a theater near you soon. And then they go away, and if you contact the company, they deny ever having said that. They've never had a wheel motor project. They've never had any press releases about wheel motors. What am I talking about? No, I have it in my hand. Oh no, that's not from us.
That's right, we didn't do that.
We did.
That's been
I
photoshopped.
checked. Everybody in the plant that had anything to do with wheel motors has assured me that they've never had anything to do with wheel motors.
That's true.
It's irrefutable. Why?
Yeah, we've never actually seen one with all the projects come to fruition.
We've never seen one come to fruition. There's a guy in Japan that has 8 of them on one car who has demonstrated it for Toyota. Has Toyota ever announced any interest beyond that in wheel motors? No.
Not that I can detect, no.
A motor turns. That's how it develops power.
All right.
It does not have a great deal of strength forward and aft along the axle.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't have any strength really on the axle itself.
Sure, right.
It's not a load-bearing type device. It has a bearing on each end, and if you put weight on that shaft while it's turning, you're going to wear that bearing out quick.
Right.
And it's a pretty good size bearing. Now we have wheels, and they have bearings too, but they don't have a 1/10,000th of an inch air gap between the stator and the field.
Right, like we do in a motor, sure.
How would you like to have a wheel motor in your car that did drive your car, made all that power, and did everything these guys say? However, each time you have to change your wheel motor twice as often as your tires.
That wouldn't make good
How about a
sense.
wheel motor that goes 8,000 miles? See, they demonstrated all these prototype vehicles and they work great.
Right, right.
And then the grinding sound begins. No problem, we just have a little problem with this motor, so we'll swap it out. Well, then the grinding noise on one of the other wheel motors starts. And the reason is it can't take that side load on the shaft. And it can't do it jumping up and down. Everybody's focused on the unsprung weight of the wheel with a wheel motor in it. Here's what the wheel motor worries about. The sprung weight of the car that's jumping up and down on top of it.
And those bearings, huh?
Those bearings.
And the bearings, yeah.
So you wind up with a car with a drivetrain that lasts 7,500 miles, and then you need to have it rebuilt and new bearings put in.
Man.
And it'll work fine.
Yeah, and you don't even have to change tires.
Right? The tires
You
will
can just
last
rotate 'em.
40,000.
You can just rotate 'em
You
at
have
that
to
point.
do 4 motor changes per tire change. Yeah, the unsprung mass of the wheel, everybody focuses on that. How about the sprung mass of the car jumping up and down on top of this shaft and bearing? You didn't think about that part, huh?
That's a big load.
Well, it is, and so I think I found the Achilles heel. But this company has operated under various names, using various people's money for years, selling this concept. And they do prototype vehicles, and they work.
And they're gorgeous.
And they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they do some beautiful designs. And my fondest wish in the world, by the way, is that Protean would have fantastic success. Sell 1 million of those and make us a dealer for them.
Right, make them available.
And because I know it would vastly simplify for you the conversion of a internal combustion car to electric drive, magnetic drive. And I'm all about that and all for that, but that isn't going to do it. But anyway, Richard Van Wyhe, with that van again, I think is going to be pretty cool.
I think so too.
We have an overstock situation. I meant to mention last week.
Yes, we did.
I got 10 AC50s, 5 with an aux shaft and 5 without.
Yes, we did.
We're having to reorder the without the aux shaft, and I've still got 5 with the aux shaft. Now, what's weird about that is that they assure us that 9 out of 10 they sell are with the aux shaft.
They're selling mostly with the aux shaft, yeah.
But we sell them, so we're going to knock off like $500 off this thing.
Okay.
And run a special this week. We sold a couple additional of those Siemens motors by doing this special. But yeah, it was not a groundswell.
Yeah, but we did a couple,
But
yeah.
it was kind of fun. It gives
Yeah.
us something to talk about. So we're going to do this AC50 with the aux shaft only at $39.95 for the whole kit.
For the kit, yeah, okay.
So if you've been thinking of an AC50, this is the everybody's $4,500, $4,600. I think
Right.
we were doing $4,700 or something on the kit. We dropped it to $45. But $39.95 this week only till Friday noon. From
right.
when you see this show. And but that's with the aux shaft. There's nothing wrong with the aux shaft. It's just like
yeah,
a net game.
Right.
George can't give away. He's got a backlog of Warp 9s without an aux shaft, and he can't find any place to dump them.
No.
So there's not. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything even if you don't need it. But you can run a alternator off of it or put a magnetic pickup on it. We do a lot of little VW things, and that shaft is always just the inch I need.
I know, it is.
And so we don't use it much, but it's entirely harmless even if you don't need it.
Yeah.
And
you can use it for
can be
something.
very useful.
Sure.
Run a vacuum pump or a steering pump or whatever. So that'll be our special this week.
Okay.
Is the high performance electric vehicle systems AC50 with aux shaft.
With aux shaft.
It's and I don't, the Richard Van Wahy thing. Under 3,000 pounds, this is a very perky thing. We had a visitor, Brian took him out in the
You're
Spider.
right.
We were talking about bigger AC systems, but I said, in that class of car, getting the Spider and take a tool around here, it's not a dragster, but
Oh, he was impressed with
it's
with
all
its
you want,
performance.
all you need.
Yeah.
And when you step on the accelerator, this is not a golf cart. It takes off.
Yeah, it's a quick car.
It's quick, and so what do you do about 10 or 11 seconds, 0 to 60 in that?
Yeah,
It's
just
not-
about the performance of that car originally. Yeah,
Yeah, it was about what it was when it came out in 1955.
yeah. It drives very nice.
And so, very pleasant thing. We've had great success with their products, and I still, that's kind of the go-to for one of these little VW things. We'd be doing the thing with it now, except I want to play with, give a test bed for Colin Kidder and Clausen's work on a generalized electric vehicle control unit, and we need to do that.
Right. We have to have somewhere
The
to
test
test
bench is great, but you need to go past that at some point. And so that's why we're doing the thing, but with that VW rear end, that's a natural
it. Just bolt it right up.
50 bolt up.
Yeah.
And very clean motor. If you need to be in competition class, 1,000 amps out of a Soliton into a Net-Gain 11 is pretty serious horsepower, but it's a big system. And for a little VW transaxle, if I can get away with it, that's
Yeah,
what
it's
I'll
a
do.
good choice. Absolutely.
Did I tell them about our faux pas with the original Speedster this week?
No, with the OG Speedster. Yeah.
Seasonal car. We had it parked here in the showroom. I think Richard, another demo drive, and then he didn't quite shut off the switch when he come back. And I mean, I should have checked. He's. But I walk past the car every day. I never leaned in and looked. We turned the key this week.
Had to take another person on a test drive. Yeah.
Yeah, this thing sprang to life with 6.3 volts of power at hand.
Yeah, and not coming out of the DC-DC converter. That was nothing. This was the entire, what,
Pack.
190 volt pack?
Right, 6.3 volts. Let's take a look. This is our 1957 Porsche Speedster replica. It's the first car we made electric. We remade it again electric with many more cells and a larger motor and a Silicon One controller. It's pretty quick, a little bit heavy with 57 Sky Energy 180 amp hour cells. We last did this about 2 years ago, and it resides mostly in our showroom today. Increasingly, we get visitors here at EVTV kind of wander in off the street, tell us they like the show, and want to look around the shop. The central issue with electric cars, as you know, is we need to do more of them. And to do that, you have to have the population sit in them. It's a thing you can talk to death, but it does not make a lot of sense to people because of the premium you pay for the vehicles until you sit in one and drive it. So we usually take people for a ride. They're kind of hard for me to get in and out. Richard or Brain usually does it. About 3 months ago, Richard took somebody for a drive in it and brought it back and parked it in the showroom. He left the maintenance switch on. And this brings up an issue that is endemic to electric cars. You have to have power to control things, but any power that you take is a drain on the batteries. No matter how small a drain it is, over time it is cumulative. We actually have a stereo in this car that simply retains a little bit of current to maintain our presets for our stations and so forth. In fact, this stereo hasn't worked in about a year, but it still drains the 12-volt system a little bit, which is, of course, provided by the battery pack. To show you how cumulative this is, this car sat there for about 3 months, and this week we had somebody stop by, and I asked Brian to take him for a ride in this car, and he turned the key and nothing happened, and we had no 12 volts. And in fact, I pulled the voltmeter and started checking our cells, and each one of them was down at 0.10 cells. The entire pack of 57 cells, normally 192 volts, had drained to 6.3 volts, which was an insufficient voltage for my charger to even recognize that it had a battery, nor would it charge. I had to put a couple of 12-volt batteries in series with the pack initially to get enough charge in them up to where the charger would recognize that there was a battery there, and then disconnect the two 12 volts and go on and charge the car. Fortunately, this was during the this car was built when Matt Hauber was here. He's now got his own shop in San Diego at EV West. Living the life, struggling the struggle, but living the life. But while he was here, he took the bottom balancing religion to heart. We did a number of experiments he found very persuasive, and he got to be very good at bottom balancing cells. Unfortunately, this entire 57 cell pack was bottom balanced to the final thousandth, I believe. And so that stereo drain was not a big current draw. It was a very gentle one, and the cells all went down the side of that cliff together. We put a charger on them, charged them at about 5 amps for a couple hours. Got 10 or 15 amp hours in there, got it up over 2.5 volts on all the cells, and then turned it up to 10 amps, I think, for a while, and then went to the most that I could get out of the charger I had at hand, which was 21 amperes, and charged the car the remaining way. When we finished up, the cells all came up at the top of the charge while still charging, but just before terminating. I measured all the cells. They range from a low of 3.39 or 3.40 to a high of one cell that had 3.88 volts, which was quite high. And that cell had an X on it in black felt tip pin and a circle with a plus in the middle in silver. And of course, 2 years later, I don't recall exactly what that means, but I used to mark cells that we considered substandard or cells to keep an eye on. And sometimes they'd be cells we would take measurements on while we were charging or discharging. Just to keep an eye on them, we would mark them. So a suspect cell then was at 3.88. I was not alarmed at 3.88. This chemistry cell originally came with instructions to charge them to 4.2 volts. The cell isn't harmed, I don't think, but it was probably a lower capacity cell. And so at the end of this, we swapped it out with a known good one and took that one to the lab just to see what was going on. Let's take a look at what we found. Well, I just had to know. This is the cell. Has two markings on it, a silver circle with a cross in it, a black cross, indicating I kind of had my eye on this cell at least twice before, that there was a problem with it. I'll do that. I'll leave a little mark on one that I don't like. We charged the car. This one reached a maximum during the charge of 3.88. Our cells varied from a low of 3.39 or 3.40 at the top of charge to this one, the highest one, at 3.88. Most of them were in a very narrow range of 3.55 to 3.6 volts. And so charging it to 200 volts is about perfect for this pack. And I have to tell you that 3.88 volts is not alarming at all. We used to charge cells of the same chemistry to 4.2 volts. And so that this one was at 3.88 is not really a problem. And indeed, there is absolutely no evidence of swelling, venting, or gassing on the cell. But we took this pack down to about 0.1 volts per battery cell. And so I have to know, and what I'm doing right now is a very simple capacity test on the cell. We took it right after the car, after it was fully charged, and by fully, I mean to my undercharging regime of 3.5 volts times the number of cells or so. And right now I am discharging it into our constant current load at a rate of 90.4 amps, which is 0.5 C. We're at 3.179 volts. And we have so far taken out 19 and a little bit amp hours out of this cell. I want to see what kind of capacity I get out of it, discharging it. And we may, if it's unusual, we'll probably take it all the way down and then charge it again and see if any of that comes back, and see if the capacity is moving or stationary, if there's a capacity loss, if there's not a capacity loss. All of that tells us something. And we don't have really a dog in this fight. I don't, it will just be curious to see a pack taken down to less than 6 volts on 57 cells, then charged fairly slowly, mostly at a 20 amp rate, initially at a 5 amp rate, and then see if the cell apparently exhibiting the least capacity, this one, has had a significant capacity loss. We don't know exactly what the capacity was in this cell. We know it had a couple of marks against it, but it was nominally a 180 amp hour cell, and let's see what we wind up with. Stay with us. We didn't do too badly. We're at 2.63 volts and dropping rapidly. I'm at 159.8 amp hours on what was originally a 160 amp hour cell, 180 amp hour cell. So it had a couple of marks on it. This cell had been under question earlier as being kind of a low cell, and so there's I can't really tell there's any capacity loss. Probably some, about 10%. We're up over 160 amp hours to 2.5 volts. And we'll reverse this and charge it and see what we get. We may be able to get it back to full capacity, maybe not. In the meanwhile, we're going to change the cell in the car. There's no visible swelling. It's still a good cell, but that would indicate to me that cell being marked and being the least capacity cell in my pack, that by replacing it with a 190 amp hour cell, that we'd get that vehicle get maximum range out of it then anyway. You're never going to get any more range than you can get from your least capacity cell. And so it's a good exercise to change this one. But I would say we've proved the efficacy of bottom balancing, in this case, kind of a long-term forced bottom balance to 0.1 volts. But when we bring it up, we got all the cells back, and I think at pretty much full capacity. Like I say, this one was under question from the beginning, and we've got 160 amp hours back out of it from a charge to 3.5 volts. I'll charge it to 3.65 now and see if I would expect to hit 170 amp hours on this. We'll take a look. We started at a negative 160 amp hours that we had discharged. We're down to 1.38 amp hours of positive discharge, and then we'll start adding it in. I've got the battery at 3.576 volts. Remember, I've told you this voltage is not real. It's a result of a battle between our charger, or in this case a power supply, and the energy level in our cell. We're at 34 amps now and 3.58 volts. I can turn that down to 15 amps, and our voltage is going to fall rather rapidly down below 3.5 volts. If I turn it back up to 33 amps, it starts climbing again. It is a result of two flows, one applied by the charger and one that's trying to be applied by the battery. We will not know a voltage truly representing our battery state of charge for 24 hours after we quit that. So I can make this voltage read anything I want and kind of make the current read anything I want within those constraints. Let's just adjust it for about 3.6. I've got this JLD set to trip out at 3.65. we're down to 0.4 amp hours. And I have turned my current down. There's 31 amps. And my voltage starts to fall. And it'll fall until it meets that rising energy level in that battery as we fill it. So it bounces off of 8 and goes back to 9, 3.610. Now I turn the current down to 29 amps. And our voltage is falling. And so that's what we mean by constant voltage. We want to hold 3.6 volts. In order to do that, I have to decrease the current. We do that until we reach 0.05 C, or C divided by 20. In this case, this is a 180 amp hour cell. Ostensibly, we're not going to see that. And so we'll hold it there until we get down to 9 amps, and that's by the book fully charged at 3.60 and 9 amps. We've crossed over into negative territory. Any amp hours now are going to be in excess of our 160. But we're only adding them at about 27 amp hours, or 27 amps per hour. And we're not going to make it that far. Again, I have to, things move pretty fast at the top. I'll go drop to 25 amps here. And that'll drop my voltage. We're actually below 3.6 now, but I'll just leave it pump for a few seconds and it'll come back up. There's 3.598. There's my 3.6 at 25 amps. Go to 23. My voltage falls. So I'm guessing this capacity is going to come out about 165. That's off of 180. A lot of the cells we were getting in those days, these are 2 years old, have got quite a few miles on them, have been, about 185 is what they were coming in at that time. And I think we'll see 165. There's 2 marks on this cell indicating that from a long time ago, actually when they were installed, it was considered a cell to keep your eye on, and probably a low one. So it's probably in the lower mid 170s then, and we're going to be at 165 probably after taking it down very gently to 0.1 volts. So I'm not seeing much loss in capacity. There may be a few amp hours here that happened because of that incident, but nothing that would alarm me or cause me not to drive the car. We have replaced the cell with another one that is known to have 190 amp hours, and so most probably my least cell with the least capacity has now been replaced with a cell with the greatest capacity. That might get me a few blocks extra range, not terribly important. Turn her down to 20 amps. And it's still putting in stuff. Yeah, just a feel for it. I think this will come in about 165 amps. We'll nurse this along down another 10 or 12 amps, but 163, 165.
That's
There you
amazing.
go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, man. Who would have thunk that they'd come back?
Well, speaking of morons,
Yeah, that's right. We're saying, yeah. Did I just say moron?
Ron Adamowicz has absolutely forced me to talk about him. He's declared his intention to sue us if I do, which means I have to, and it's not even very interesting. The guy's just a clown. Is that slander? No, I think we can prove that. Richard kind of made me do a sponsorship of this guy's drag racer, but I kind of did it because he was so pathetic. He was here at EVCon and moping around, and apparently, it was a lot of money to bring his car out. He's had problems with the car. Then he has this little moving company in Connecticut, and he was down to him and a truck being the moving company. He had to lay off everybody, and it really wasn't eating. And so we gave him $5,000 to sponsor his car for
Okay.
the 2013 season.
Okay, for the drag race season. Okay, okay.
And he's got a black car. We made some big yellow EVTV decals and told him to put it on the car in the trailer. That'd be good. He was going to
Okay.
go to all these race events and stuff and promote EVTV and everything. He puts up a video on YouTube all about the car. No mention of EVTV at all. No yellow vinyl stickers on the car. But still a big black car. And I sent him an email about it, and he just went berserk. And he explained to me that he's really kind of a hot shot, and that big-time drag racers, that my measly $5,000 doesn't amount to anything, and really the normal thing is like about $150,000 is what
That's a lot of money.
electric car drag racers get. I'd like to hear from any electric car drag racing team out there that has received $150,000 in cash as a sponsorship, just that you exist. In fact, I'd like to hear of any of them that's ever received $5,000, not in kind, but in greenback ducats, to support your efforts. And we supported this clown, and the first official act was to put out a video with no mention of us at all. And I called his attention to it and got into such a weird, well, if you have been online with Ron, you know about this, but it was so weird. He immediately started threatening us, and he's going to sue us, and he's going to charge me for promotion on his website
Okay.
and on his car, which is what he was supposed to be doing for the $5,000 to begin with. But he's going to sue me for that, and of course slander. It's basically, he's a clown. I was kind of touched because he was very gentle and helpful at the drag race with the people that
okay.
didn't know about him. But then he'd pout about the results, and he wasn't getting enough attention. And so it's like a big kid. But we fleshed, he did volunteer to send us the $5,000. I accepted, and we'll see if that actually comes to pass.
Okay.
But it's very strange.
All right.
How do I get into these things? I would really fuss at you, but you weren't
I
here.
wasn't here. I didn't
This was,
know.
Richard was supposed to be supervising me that week. But I decided to let it pass, but then he called yesterday and advised me that he would file suit if I mentioned his name Friday. So, game on, Ronnie. Gotta love it.
You're never blowing me a kiss.
You never did sue me.
All right.
He sues everybody. He actually sues nobody. The guy is like a big hat, no cattle. You know, big mouth with a bitty tutor in the back. So I shouldn't let him get to us. But we were trying to do a good thing, and that was, I don't really understand the drag racing thing, but I thought, sponsor a drag team. Well, Richard said sponsor a racing team. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
Well, if we do get our $5,000 back, maybe we'll give it to somebody else. I'm sure there's somebody out there that doesn't get $150,000 in sponsorship and would be happy with $5,000.
I might do a drag racing team.
I thought it was generous, actually, but he explained to me that it's very small potatoes in the big world that he lives in of high-end drag racers and the world's fastest electric car. And it brought me another idea. What if we did the world's slowest electric car on the drag strip? See, the idea is to get that EVTV decal to be seen by as many people. So we have
As long as we could.
tear up a lot of smoke, make a lot of noise there at the starting line, but then when it takes off, I want to see like a 60-second quarter mile where everyone sees the letters very clearly as it goes
And
by.
you go past the grandstands really slow.
Yeah, like get a Metropolitan or a Nash Metropolitan or something and put about a 2.5 kilowatt motor in it or something, you know. And have it go to the drag races and race against Ryan.
Jeez.
So he tears off down the track and it's going, but here's this one with the EVTV on the side. They get to watch for a full minute till it clears the track so somebody else can go.
Till it turns
How would
dark.
that work? What do I know about drag racing? Are we done?
I think we nailed it. I think we've just done another episode of EVTV.
We'll be back next week with another exciting episode of
See you then.